be true to yourself, but play the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's
100%.
very simple. You know, like
Yeah.
as we said, if you go meet someone slightly older or of a different generation, make sure you wear a suit. You know, there's a point where you have to be yourself, but actually
Yeah.
it's not going to kill you to wear a shirt. You know, so
Of course.
you know, just finding that balance with different people.
Yeah.
I've been progressing in a large company, but I've enjoyed every step and I've enjoyed the work that I've done. And I never dread getting up in the morning and going to work ever. Not in the current company that I'm in,
Yeah.
right? Which is why I'm willing to, you know, get
Yeah.
more grey hairs or,
Yeah.
you know, I'm willing to do all of that, right?
Welcome to the Proud Talk. I'm your host, Tracy Hill, and today I am joined by Vineta, who is the Group Finance Director of the fastest and largest growing online grocer ever in the world, isn't it? Ocado.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
how is that?
Busy.
Welcome, by the way.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Really, really good to have you. And I think it's funny because I have to tell you the story, by the way. We might cut this, we might not. But for 2 years ahead of you reaching out to me, the team that I worked for before were trying to get in contact with you before the merger between Ocado and M&S because we were doing all the data stuff there. And I don't know what happened, but they couldn't get in contact with you. And then when I saw the inbox mail in LinkedIn, I was like, wow, things just come around in life in full circle. So 9 years, Ocado, group finance, that's got to be pretty tough.
Yeah, like I've definitely put on about 2 stone. I have about 8 new grey hairs, you know.
8, that's not bad.
Yeah, I had none. So, I mean, that's the point, right? When I got my first grey hair, my mum saw it and then she saw that she was washing dishes. And then I went over and I was doing something. And then she looked at me and then she looked at my hair and she walked away and then she called my dad. And then my dad came over and then she was like, and I was just there. And then she was like, touch it. And he went, oh. And I was just like, don't know. And the next minute, this phone comes up beside me. She takes a photo.
No.
And she was like, oh, your first grey hair.
So proud.
What? Why would you do this to me? So yes, I've got all my grey hairs since I've been working at Ocado.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah.
So before you started Ocado, were you still in a similar industry?
Yeah, so I was in a company called Kerry Group.
Okay.
So in the UK, you might know them as Kerry Foods.
Yeah.
They're really big in Ireland. We know them as butter.
Yes.
So get Kerry Go butter. But that's only about 15 or 16% of their revenue.
Okay.
They own things like Innocent Juices, Richmond sausages, things like that.
I didn't know they owned Innocent.
Yeah, so they acquired lots of companies.
Okay.
But actually most of their business is in ingredients and flavors. So they do a lot of the ingredients and flavors for a lot of ready meals and things like that globally.
Yeah.
So they've got like 6 to 8 billion revenue and they're in nearly every country in the world.
Wow.
So I was based there in Ireland before I moved to Ocado. So a similar-ish industry.
Yeah. But I think
That wasn't the interest
I
for
was
me,
going
though.
to say though, for when you started Ocado, I suppose it definitely wasn't what it is now. So that was nearly 10 years ago or something. You've been at Ocado.
Well, I mean, people ask me why I moved for Ocado. They're always
Yeah.
like, "Why did you move for Ocado?" I'm like, I mean, it was basically a promotion and like a bit more money. Like, you know, Ocado aren't in Ireland. I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And in my interview, I remember they asked me this funny question. They said, "What do you think about what the press think about us? Like, you know, what do you think about, you know, about Ocado?" And I was like, well, you don't exist in Ireland, so I don't know what they say, right? Like, I didn't really go and read any press or tabloid about what they say.
Yeah.
All I know is that I shop online. I used to go to the grocery store when I was a child, but now I shop online. And generations now are watching their parents shop on tablets, on phones, and on PCs. So there's a generational channel shift happening on customers' buying habits. So I kind of get it, and that's why I'm here. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I think for people that I suppose don't know Ocado, I mean, I don't know what planet you're living on if you don't, but if you don't know Ocado, can you just give an overview of, I suppose, because they are a tech company, ultimately, aren't they, really?
Now.
Yeah, now. But how they, I suppose, differ to what we know as the norm of grocery.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, so you've got a bricks and mortar store, like you might go to a big 4 supermarket. So they've got a store You can buy all your products and you go in and go out. With Ocado, our whole ethos was no store, no limits. So you have a website, you also have an app, you can order through that. There's a large SKU range. We also provide things like, day life. So it'll tell you your milk is going to go off in 5 days, the milk that you order. So you have an idea. Because one of the challenges are if you order, will you pick the right thing that has the right date?
Yeah.
So certain things we do on the website. That then goes through into our automated warehouses where we have robots and people to pick your groceries, and then that goes into a van and then it gets delivered, and that's what you see. So the delivery guy, our customer service team member, gets in an Ocado van and he goes to your house and he delivers your groceries. So the only touch point we have with a customer is the man or the woman who is coming to your house to deliver your groceries. And apart from that, there's no physical store presence or experience where you go and experience the brand of Ocado. So that's how we are different. We are a online grocery supermarket, entirely pure play. That's what Ocado.com is, or Ocado Retail is.
Yeah. And you're not just UK, are you now? You've expanded to, well, globally, haven't you?
Well, that's the thing, right? So if you think about a lot of retail businesses, Ocado, there's challenges. You could turn around and say, well, I'll go into, I could go into France and be Ocado.fr, right? Large retail businesses have done that. So Tesco have done that, for example. They've gone into other countries. And what you realize is Ocado or other big four supermarkets are big names here. But actually, when you go to another country, you have to establish a new brand. So there's a point where you go, do I go into another country and set myself up as the brand name that I recognize? Or do I partner with a supermarket over there who are already established? So for us, our strategy was, well, we know what the best way to do online grocery is because we've built it and proved it in the UK. And I always call it like the car showroom.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The UK is the car showroom. We have a very successful online supermarket and we have very sticky and very happy customers.
Yeah.
And we've grown for the last 22 years. But instead of us going to other countries and being Ocado.com, why not partner with retailers who have bricks and mortar stores who go, well, I want to go online too. And we'll go, well, why don't we show you how to do it? And why don't we help build you an automated warehouse?
Okay,
So that's where
makes
we
sense.
shed our retail skin and became a technology business because we actually built so much technology. We have so many patents that help us do that. And so we have 9 partnerships around the world. So we're building many warehouses in the US. We're building warehouses in Canada. We're building in Japan, in Australia, in Sweden, France, Spain, soon to be Poland. So there's a lot happening. So we are growing in many countries, but obviously not as the Ocado.com that you and I know.
Yeah, of course. So within, I suppose, when I spoke to you on the phone, we talked about you obviously going to the US and visiting different heads of state and you sort of gaining or talking about investment for those builds. That must be a lot of pressure on you to take on that role. Or do you have like a team of people that are supporting with that transition for you?
It's a hard question. I think, when I joined Ocado, the finance team were very small. And we've always had a very lean finance team up until the last maybe 3 years or so, where with the pandemic, we started investing a significant more into our finance resources, our systems and our processes. So the team was always a core team there was always one person I always called no matter what.
Yeah.
So for example, I've been head of tax and I've been group treasurer for many, many years. What that means is that I was doing the strategy, but I was also doing the actual doing of certain parts as well. My treasury team up until very recently was myself and say 2 cashiers. So the cashiers weren't actually doing, the covenants or trying to work out my foreign exchange. I had maybe an accountant giving me a couple of hours a week. So what happened was you ended up you knew what you had to do, but you also had to do it or try and beg and borrow from different teams all within my remit to do it as well. And that's just a real growth startup mindset, which has been amazing.
Definitely.
You get to touch everything and they get to touch everything.
Yeah.
But actually that culture maybe isn't for everybody either.
And then it leads me on to a question that I wanted to ask actually. I don't see, I haven't seen much in the corporate world, but it is really absolutely around growth mindset and culture. And being compassionate with the team, but also allowing them to fail, to learn. So what are some of the things that you've implemented in Ocado with your team to sort of allow them to do that you could pass on to maybe others watching this?
Allowing them to fail.
Yeah, allowing them to fail, just introducing to things you wouldn't normally do, but sort of just letting go of the reins a bit and so.
I mean, it's a tricky one, right? Because for me, my style is very much, I wouldn't say hands off, but I want people to feel empowered to do the right things for themselves.
Yeah.
But you know the right time when to catch them.
Yeah.
So it's a case of guiding them and allowing them to make the decisions themselves. It's like, you know, when you're in school and you can't do a math problem and you want help, but you have to show you've tried.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a case of, right, well, this is what we need. Here's the process. Here's what I recommend you try and do. Go do it, right? And there's different types of people. They might try and say, well, actually, can you please spook me a bit more or give me a bit more direction? Some will go, yeah, no problem, I'll be right back, and they'll go off and do it. And what happens is you end up being a more collaborative team. So my style is more collaborative. Come to me when you need help from me, or when you need me to review something, come it to me. But otherwise, it's yours to own. So it's all about significant empowerment.
That's good.
But you have a really good idea where you kind of know when there's a train wreck about to happen, and then you go, okay, well, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Because if you tell them, they won't learn when to see it next
So
time.
true. Yeah.
And that's what I would have wanted when I was, you know, developing, and that's what I want them to have. So, you know, systems and processes are quite, you know, I suppose they're important, but they're very simple.
Yeah.
No matter how many processes you put in, errors still happen.
Of course.
The way I try and deal with failure, or ensuring that we avoid failure where we can, is maintaining a very low risk culture. Now, how do you do that? That's about being open. So for me, when someone makes a mistake, and I mean this, there's zero blame. And I say that in that, you know, if you make a mistake, I won't go, oh my God, what have you done? Why has this happened? I'll say, right, explain the problem to me, explain what the impact is. Okay, fine. And how did it happen? Great. And I don't lose my cool, because the answer is, they have guts coming to tell me, right? And they want to tell me. So you have to reward that.
Of course.
And then once they've told you, you go, right, cool. So what can we do to make sure this wouldn't happen again? What could have happened to prevent it? Great.
Yeah.
Let's fix the problem. Now go implement it. And so then it helps them, which means that as a result, people put their hands up and they go, yeah, okay, I made a mistake. And I'm like, great, cool. And, you know, I've had so many situations where, you know, someone's come to me at like 11 in the night, they'll message me and they'll go, have you got a minute? And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, sure, what's up? And they'll go, I can't find, I don't know, like a number. I can't find 10 million. And I'm like, okay, cool, right. Well, you know, what have you found?
I can't find 10 million.
Yeah.
What?
It's not literally like that. You know, they're kind of like,
no.
I'm reconciling it, and there's like a number, and I've searched everywhere. And I'm like, all right, cool. And they're like, you know, and I'm, you know, I don't know where it is, and I've looked at this. I'm like, great, cool. I was like, look, it's 11 o'clock. We're not going to solve it tonight. So you've told me, go to bed. I'll worry about it. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I can't solve it at 11 p.m. in the night.
Yeah.
But actually, by them telling me, they'll sleep better tonight. And that's fine.
Definitely. And I was going to say, I think a lot of people hold back because they don't feel they can approach their peers with a problem because it's just going to be a lot of backlash. And it's like, oh, that's not. So I absolutely love that style and would hope that many others take your advice.
But also, it's a mix of no judgment as well.
Definitely.
You know, it's about saying it, but also not creating a judgment going, oh, well, they're pretty terrible, or how could you have not spotted it? You know, like I remember that question. I was like, okay, well, you know, you've been doing this for a while, so, you know, how has this not come up sooner?
Yeah.
And she was like, look, I was reconciling these 5 numbers, and from what I saw, I was expecting it to fall out.
Yeah.
So I kind of had this here, and actually I've reconciled all these, and I can't find this number. I'm like, okay, cool, fine. So following morning, we sat down and, you know, worked through it, and, you know, it was quite easy to find. Actually, she just needed a sounding board.
Yeah.
So, and that's just always been my style. So it means that way then you hear about if we have a problem way before you actually really have a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that's the approach I take, because that's what I'm like as well. You know, when I was, I suppose, growing through the ranks, one of my old bosses, who was really good, said to me, if you ever feel like you're going to have a sleepless night, tell your manager, for 2 reasons. 1, you're not paid enough to have a sleepless night, and 2, they are. So, it's great. It's great.
I need to high five him.
No, it's
100%.
It's great, yeah. And he's like, I'm not paid enough, you know. And so I've had this really good mindset where I remember one of my old managers, I went and I said, look, I think we found something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend the next 2 days looking into it, but I'm just letting you know now that I'm looking into something. I'll let you know if there's something to worry about. And I've said it. I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, I've got a problem. I'm going, and then 2 days time I might go, that wasn't a problem, but it's all good. Or it was a problem, but I've sorted it.
And that's
or whatever.
it, but it was at the time and it affected you and you were able just to get it off your chest and like you say, go to sleep.
Absolutely.
And then figure it out. Everything's figure outable, isn't it?
But it's that phrase, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
Some really basics, I don't know, like sayings that really impact business life as well outside of the business culture, but just something as sharing the problem really helps. Because you've said it instead of holding this dirty little secret about,
That's
oh my
it.
God, I have a problem. It's like, no, we have a problem.
Yeah. Brilliant. And has that always been the case for you on your journey up to this point? Have you always had very supportive leaders guide you?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's really interesting. I've had some really good managers, and then I've also had some pretty challenging managers. And I say this not being a parent, but it's kind of like parenting, right? You look at your parents and you go, what would I have done right or wrong? And you do the same thing with your manager. You kind of go, well, I would have preferred to if you approached it this way, or I would have rather have a more open relationship with you. And then you work out what motivates you, and then you go, right, well, that's what I want to bring to my team. So, I had some, I had a really supportive manager when I was training, and we were just a team, and I killed myself for that guy. He was struggling with a lot of stuff in his personal life, and he had a lot of work going on. And I was like, look, give it to me, I'll do some stuff. And he was working hard, I was working hard, and we were a team.
Yeah.
It wasn't here's all the work, I'm going home at 5 o'clock, right? And I really valued that.
Yeah.
But then I had another manager who was also really good at her job, but when she was frustrated, she would berate the person, and she would say things like, oh, well, how did you even get a job here, and things like that, because she was frustrated at a situation. And how that made me feel was horrible. And I was like, well, I'm trying to find a way to work with this person. But also the person didn't really understand that they were having that impact. So, and that had quite a emotional and mental impact on me without realizing it. I had a lot more migraines than I realized I was having, and I just thought I had migraines. But actually it was just the anxiety and the stress of the situation where I was trying to make it work. I found out what her hobbies were. I started talking about them to her. I was trying to find a way, some common ground. And no matter what I did, it just wasn't working. So you have to find a way to work around that. And it just made me realize that I want to wake up and enjoy going into work. And that's what I want my people to feel too. So I didn't like working for that person, but I mean, she had her own issues, and we got along. I made it work. So I learned to adapt my style. Then I had another manager. Oh my God, he was like amazing. We were the same personality, just bounced off each other. Great ideas. Let's do this. Let's do this. It was amazing. And but what I learned about this individual was, if there was a battle to fight that wasn't in his interest, he wouldn't pick it. So, for example, I had a situation with another senior person, and they were kind of they were shouting at me, and raising their voice and talking down to me as in he was a man, I was a woman, and he was talking down to me in a, how dare you speak to me like that? Don't talk to me like that, in a a very parental tone, right? Which was very odd, right? And my manager could have diffused the situation. He was on the floor, and he chose not to, right? And I had a peer who said to him, like, do you want to go and and he wouldn't interrupt us, and I was really impacted by that situation. And afterwards I said to him, why didn't you break it up? Everyone heard, and I tried to pull myself out of the situation. Why didn't you? And he said, look, me and this person, we already kind of don't get along very well. I didn't want to use one of my brownie points to get involved. And I was like, you put yourself before your people. And I didn't say that to him, but that's what I took away from it.
But that's obviously how you felt at the time.
Absolutely.
As well,
I was like, can you please, I needed someone to, and it was such an emotional situation for me, because I was kind of like, I loved this manager, and he didn't come to my rescue when that's when you need your manager to come in.
Definitely.
And I was like, no. I was like, nothing is more important than your people. Nothing. So I actually got promoted out from underneath that person, and which was great,
good.
and he was fantastic. And he was like one of the worst peers I've ever had. He was great. And what I realized was there are some people managers who are amazing to their people, but they are not great team players because they're so focused. And I was like, no, my team are my peers actually. that's actually who my team are. We support each other. And so the way I had to work with this individual was they were more senior than me. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm just a junior person that's been promoted. You've done my job. I had to belittle myself so that they felt more empowered. I didn't believe that by ad, but I had to do that to work with that person. And that's the only way I could get it from that person. It was just really hard.
How sad is that? That you feel that you have to belittle yourself in a way?
But it's about being adaptable to people.
It is,
right? It's kind of like it's like if you go and you meet someone who's of a different generation, you know you're gonna have to wear a shirt. You know, so if you do these things, you have to adapt your style. Some people might say that was right or wrong thing. The answer is we're all still here to create shareholder value. I'm here to pay a mortgage, and I've got to get stuff done to help my team. And it doesn't really matter. Like none of my team saw I was doing that. I was kind of like, oh, you know, you know my area, but actually a quick question, or do you mind? Or I would say I'm more than happy to help. So I was more supportive, but that's what I needed to do to work with the individual. And again, still a really good friend of mine actually. But you know, it's just as a peer, you know, everyone's different.
Yeah, no,
while my style is my team is my people, my team is my team. You know, if I hear something about somebody else's team, I'll give them a heads up going, I heard about this. I'm not going to go, that's your turf. Why would I?
No, of course.
It's horrible. I would want them to tell me.
So the finance industry as a whole, I've worked in corporate. I dealt a lot with finance for 15 to 18 years. Oh, I'm showing my age. But
or you started very young. Or you started very young. Right, you started very young.
Now, it was always very male dominated. I think there's certainly a shift in that space now. But I still talk to people that are still sort of firefighting to sort of get to the position that they want. Is there any advice from a woman to woman, really, just on sort of how to navigate that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, actually. I've been asked this a lot, and it's hard because if you ask me who I am, I don't say I'm a female senior leader.
Yeah, no, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm Vineta. I mean, it's kind of my name, right? That's kind of how I approach it. And it's interesting because people in society put labels on you, right? And they go, oh, you're female, you're ethnic minority, you're young, you're whatever, you're Irish, or whatever it is, right? And I naively, my approach has always been, when people ask me how have I worked up, I always say, well, if you do a good job, you get places. That's kind of how I've done it. Now, but actually what I've learned is that probably isn't actually how people think. And I still believe that if you work really hard, you'll get places. That's really not how it works. I think I've just been very fortunate, actually, in the position I've been in, where I've just gotten my nose in things that I probably shouldn't have gotten into because I'm actually just very curious. You know, even if it's not my area, I'll go, oh, I found something. You know, let's try and fix it. You know, and therefore I just care about people. And as a result, because I care about people, I've just gotten so much experience in different areas. I think the advice I'd probably give is, well, it's about staying true to your values. You know, for me, being my true self is more important to me than progression. And that's what helps you sleep at night.
Definitely.
So, you know, there is a game to play, right? So, you know, you have to network, you have to find space for things. But actually, I think things are changing a lot. You know, like for me, I have, you know, up until very recently, I've had 3 heads of finance who were female, and they're working mothers, and they are they're part-time. Because I'm like, you know what, I want you, and I want to make sure this role works for you. And if you want to do part-time, I will make it work for you. It doesn't matter that you're a working mother. It doesn't matter that you can only do X amount of time. If you're good at your job, I want you in my team. So that's kind of how I've approached things. But I'm aware that not everyone thinks like that either. People will
they
go,
definitely don't.
So it's really hard, right? I think it's hard. I think the only thing I would say is just be true to yourself, but play the game. Right.
Yeah.
So that's
100%.
very simple. You know, like as we said, if you go meet someone slightly older or of a different generation, make sure you wear a suit. You know, there's a point where you have to be yourself, but actually it's not going to kill you to wear a shirt. You know, so
of course.
You know, just finding that balance with different people.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think before I used to work with anyone, I would always understand a bit about them. Before I turn up. Because I think like you should be curious and invested in the person or people that you want to work with or do business with, and it's for me it was just always
the other thing that's really key here, right, is that there are so many different organizations now versus say 15 years ago, where everyone had to go to very large, already established organizations to build a career. Actually, there's so many startups or businesses that are trying to really challenge the status quo. So I think it's actually a lot easier now versus say 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, agreed.
And the answer is just because, going to one of the top 100 companies that may not actually be the right thing. That actually, they may not be the right fit for you. And just because you're not working for the biggest company doesn't diminish the role you're doing. Absolutely. What's more important than seniority is actually enjoying what you do.
Yeah.
And that's what's key for me. So for me, I've just been really lucky that I've been progressing in a large company, but I've enjoyed every step and I've enjoyed the work that I've done, and I never dread getting up in the morning and going to work ever. Not in the current company that I'm in, right? Which is why I'm willing to, get more grey hairs, or I'm willing to do all of that, right? And if you find a business where you wake up and you don't enjoy that business is not for you. And it just comes down to culture, because if someone wants you, they will take you. Like how I had, as I said, 2 working mothers who were amazing, and I was. They said to me, will this role be right for me? It sounds like a lot. And I'm like, I want you, so I will make it work for you. You tell me what you need, because I know you're a rock star.
Yeah.
And if a business is not willing to do that for you, they're not the right business for you. And we should empower women to say, I don't actually want to work for you. I want to go do something different.
Yeah.
So it's an empowerment to a different level as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, it's also okay to say no. That I don't want to work for you anymore and move on. Well, I think
women find that hard.
Yeah, they do. So difficult.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, no, me either. I've always been that person as like, no, fuck this, I'm out.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't want to do this. That's kind of it. And I think it's just hard, and that's just down to generations. It's down to how women are brought up. Yeah. It's just down to you tend to be the pleaser, the person who's more amicable, things like that. No. Yeah. We're all equals. I'm very clear on, if I'm going to be an equal to someone, then I can't be an equal if I still expect chivalry. I should open the door too. Yes. Why would I wait for someone else?
Definitely.
I need to split the bill, or I need to pay the bill, or one time. I mean, it has to work unilaterally, and I'm very firm on that. And that stands also in the workplace as well. If you want a promotion, you need to go ask for it.
Yes.
If you're willing to find balance in your personal life, you should be able to do it in a certain way. And when it comes to, say, pay negotiation, I've coached a lot of people to try and get better pay, and because for me, I had, as I said, there was a gender pay gap, and I made sure we got rid of it, and I had a big argument to make sure I got rid of it for the peer group that we managed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's absolutely no scenario where this person's not getting the salary, and I was like, just take me to whoever, but I will make sure they get the right salary, because they're underpaid significantly, and I made sure that every male and every man and woman who are on the same level got the same base salary, no matter what, because I was just like, I'm not doing this. Yeah, no, I was just, there was someone who was told, I just couldn't, and I was like, absolutely not. And it was a big, I was burning bridges, and I was like, I don't actually care. Yeah. And they're like, oh, but it's just too much. And I'm like, no, it's not. Or rather, I'm undoing what's been done wrong for the last 5 years. No, they're getting paid the right amount of money. And you got to be, unlike my old manager, who wouldn't pick that fight, of course I'm going to pick that fight for that person, because she was so happy when I got it. That woman, she was so motivated to work for me, and she was motivated to be part of my team.
Well, to be honest, I think you might have a few applications coming into Ocado after this.
No, I'm very firm on these things. It's got to be equal, right? Absolutely got to be equal. But when it comes to pay negotiations, women always go, oh, well, do you mind if I have this? Actually, look at it another way. Treat it like you're offering them a service, and you have an hourly rate. How much do you want for that hourly rate? Because you'd be very happy to have that debate, but it's more daunting in this parent-child situation where you go, please, sir, could I have some more 5% increase or 3% increase? Go, right, this is the market rate. This is how much I think my services are worth. This is what I think I want to get. What do you think? Yeah. And go and approach it like you would approach a supplier, or approach it like you would approach a business. Yeah. Why is it different for us? It isn't. Treat yourself as a business. Yeah. And just, it's a psychological point you've just absolutely got to break.
And it's something that I've spoken to so many people about, that I used to work with. Because for me, I think, especially in my last role, I started there at, I suppose, the lowest pay. And, after a year and a half, I'd brought so much revenue into that company. I said, well, now, no, this is what I want based on this. And if not, and they were like, of course, absolutely. But you have to ask and know your value.
Absolutely.
But there's so many people that are just a bit scared to approach their management team about asking for what they deserve.
But the thing is, as I say to anybody, the worst thing is they'll say no.
Say no,
That's
exactly.
it. Like, it doesn't matter.
What's
If you don't
gonna
ask,
happen?
you don't, like, you know, it's like living life with regrets, right? Don't have any regrets. Don't
Yeah.
turn around and say, well, I should have done this, I could have done this. The answer is you've done it, or
Yeah.
otherwise the video reel that plays in your head when you're going to bed every night of all the things you should or shouldn't have done that day or
Yeah.
that last year or something will get bigger and bigger.
That's true,
So
yeah.
just, you know, you lose nothing by asking,
Definitely.
and you gain everything.
Yeah. So I suppose another point, which would be really good to talk to you about. I speak to a lot of people, male and female, that deal or in certain situations feel an element of imposter syndrome. And I was talking to Anne Hyatt a couple of weeks ago. She was the chief of staff for Google. And she's been in lots of situations where she said, you know, I've literally turned up in a room with Hillary Clinton, and she's felt this, you know, overwhelm of imposter syndrome.
I mean, look, if you and I were in a room with Hillary Clinton, I mean, I think that's a legit that's a legit response
but
to
I
imposter
suppose,
syndrome.
yeah.
Right?
But you know, even now, when she since left and she's gone, you know, to build her own consultancy and do her own thing, I think a lot of people suffer with it. And you know, have you come across any feelings like that where you felt like a bit of an imposter in the situation you're in, and how have you dealt with that, I suppose?
A bit, but not a lot actually. It's interesting, right? Like, you know, there's been so many scenarios, even in my very early days in Ocado, where there was, you know, we were doing a project on a corporate restructure, and the head of our accounts payable and receivable team came to me and said, you know, we need to tell all these suppliers to do something. You know, how do we do it, right? And it was basically just a mail merge, right? But she came and asked me the question, and I mean, she was more senior than me, but obviously I was an accountant, and it was odd because I sat there and I went, this person wants me to give them the answer, and I don't know the answer. I'm just going to make this up on the spot, right? Because I mean, I've never done this before. So I'm like, well, what would we? So you ask questions, what would we normally done? What do you do, right? So there's moments in your head where you go, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
This person seems to think I have the answer. So come up with the answer and let's hope it all works, right? So you have these moments of going, I'm not the right person to ask, or I would say, have you asked somebody else, whatever. So I've had weird things like that where people have actually just come to me and I'm going, this is not for me, but clearly you've come to me now, so here we are.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I wouldn't say I've had imposter syndrome, because I mean, what is imposter syndrome? It's about feeling, you know, how would you define it?
Yeah, I think for me, it's, so Anne said that she was having an imposter moment. But for me, it's someone that's evolving into the next step of their career or as a person. So I actually hate the term, in a way, imposter syndrome. But I suppose it's a moment where you feel slightly unconfident in your ability to deliver maybe what that person wants to hear, or just severe anxiety in a moment that you're in.
Okay. No, I've never faced imposter syndrome of that definition.
Yeah.
What I face is, what I describe it as, the approach I take it is just trying to fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
That sounds quite silly, right? But, you know, every problem I'm faced with, if I'm in a moment like that where I don't know the answer, right, you can take it as a, you know, oh my God, what do I do? And obviously you're kind of like, right, okay, I'm the person who needs to give this answer. What do I say? You know, it might be someone who's got a problem. It might be someone who's very emotional, and you're sitting there going, okay, what do I do? But the way I'm personally programmed is I look at everything like a problem and a challenge, everything. Because if you look at everything like a problem and a challenge, it automatically takes the emotion out of it.
Yes.
Right? And I go, right, okay, this person's really upset. Okay, cool. Or I'll give another example. The lady with the mail merge. I was like, right, you talk to somebody. No, okay, cool. You talk to this person. No, okay. How do we normally communicate with our suppliers? We do this. Can we do it with this? Okay. Have we written a letter? No, we haven't. Why don't we write a letter, and then why don't we get the list? Okay, great. So I've given her 2 actions for her to go off and do, right? And she feels more confident that I've come up with something. All I've done is ask open questions to try and solve the problem, right? Instead of going, why are you asking me? I'm not the qualified person to do this. Because the answer is, that's not helpful to the situation. It's not helpful to the person. It just pushes the problem away, and that's not fair on the individual either.
Yeah.
So I don't treat it that way. Now, when someone's very upset, I go, right, okay, cool. So, what do I know of this person? How upset are they? What can I do to try? So it's not a case of calm down. Never say that to anyone, ever. We all have battle scars from learning that one from either teens or university. So it's about just kind of trying to understand what they need, and it's a case of, look, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Diffuse the situation pretty quickly. Even though you're going, you shouldn't be so upset with me, or what do I do? There are so many situations like that. But just look at it as a puzzle, because then you solve a problem. You don't go, oh my God, I'm not qualified. So what? The only way you'll get qualified is to try and solve it. Of course. And that's always been my approach. So I don't actually think I've ever really had a situation where I've gone, okay, how do I deal with the situation? In my head, I'm going, right, how do I deal with it? Don't know. Okay, think about it. What would this person do? Okay, let me just ask a question. An open question, solve it. Because most of the time, people know the answer. They just need some help to get to the answer. Yeah. So actually, it's about just being intuitive enough to ask the right questions.
And it sounds like, to me, and this may be wrong, but that you take the emotion out of most of the decisions that you make.
Everything. Absolutely everything. And that's not to psychoanalyze my childhood. We'll be here all night. But as I said, we're all here to create shareholder value and pay a mortgage. It doesn't matter. Someone might have a tantrum or be frustrated or say, I can't believe you did this, I can't believe you did that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Your team are really silly, I can't believe you did that. It doesn't matter. Cool. So you just let them have a vent. Because sometimes people need to vent. Great, cool. Yeah, I know, I get it. I understand. Yeah, fine. Yeah, you're right. Yes, your team's more senior than me. Yeah, okay, cool, fine. So how do we get past it? It doesn't matter. My mom has this great saying, which she'll say I don't live by, but I totally do, right? Which is water on a duck's back, right? That's it, right? People just need to vent, right? Some people just kind of throw a tantrum or get frustrated and they say mean things. And there's ways to deal with it. My feelings obviously get hurt. I get an email and I get really angry sometimes. And here's how I deal with it. I write a very angry response back, and I write every single thing that I want, and then I delete it. Yep. And then I've literally got it out of my system.
I do exactly the same thing. Yeah. I do exactly the same thing.
And you have to feel like you've said it.
Yes, you have to. I love this.
And you've literally got to go, no, I don't want to do this. No, this is silly. No, this is wrong for this.
We should have kept all of these and then done another show.
Diary. Yeah.
Or turned it into a book.
Yeah, turn it into a book. Unsent emails.
Yes.
You are a dick.
Yeah.
There's all these different things. And you have to get it out of your system.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, it's just really important to take the emotion out of it, because it's business.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done. Not everyone's like that. And that's what makes it hard to be a leader as well. Because when you're a leader, what happens is you have to take all the emotion. You get people venting at you about situations. You have pressure coming from the top about different situations. And you're getting it from both sides, and you're basically keeping yourself controlled the entire time. Yeah. So you've got to find a way to find that outlet, but also just know that, that's not serious. And, I sent you the wrong email and you're upset with the words I used. I'm really sorry. That's fine. It's fine. It's just problems to solve, because actually every single thing is feedback you can take to be better. And if you get pressure from maybe not delivering, or deadlines are getting more urgent, it's about learning to plan better. Yeah. So take every single thing as a learning point. One of my old managers, who's so great, said to me, I've never met someone who wants feedback so much. He starts saying, oh, you're really good at, and I'm like, don't need to know what I'm good at. Tell me what I can improve at. I don't need this. You pay me to do a job. I'm doing the job. What can I do better? Yeah. Because I don't want the praise. I don't need it. Some people do. That's fine. I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I don't.
So that's So you have to take emotion out of it.
Definitely.
I mean, again, I'm not perfect. And that's why you have a support circle around you. You have, peers or friends, and you go, oh my God, this person said this, and you just kind of vent it out, whatever it is, but you don't show it to the key people around you.
So what does Vineta do outside of work?
Not grow more grey hairs.
But because you're always in I would say you have a high pressured job.
Yeah. So
what's your release?
Yeah, it's a mix, right? So, so I play the piano. So
Amazing.
I've been playing since I was 3.
Wow.
And I find it a fantastic release. When I was studying for my A-level equivalent in Ireland, you know, in between studying, I would go down, I would just bang something out, and actually it's quite therapeutic because it's kind of like when senior leaders go skiing. When you go skiing, you have to focus on not dying, and therefore you can't think about like, you know, work. When you're playing the piano, you're going hand-eye coordination and you're reading a different language. So that's a way to do it, and I do that pretty regularly. I play a lot of computer games, so I'm a big PC gamer. Yeah, I'm a big PC gamer, and so
What's your game of choice?
Oh, it's mixed. It depends on what's going on. So I play like real-time strategy and first-person shooters and, you know, RPGs. So I play a lot of games. From childhood, I built computers and stuff like that. So I'm a nerd, right? Like I'm an absolute nerd. But I only play the weekends.
Yeah.
So I've had to build a curfew. Going, no computer games Monday to Friday. You know, or I might as well quit my job. You know, it's just one of those things. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of it. I mean, the other thing I do, and it sounds really silly, so I do a lot of personal investing. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started investing in really small companies, so pre-seed to Series A startups. And what I meant was that I got to meet a founder or an entrepreneur and actually help them with their idea. And the role I end up playing outside of any financial investing is supporting them in their strategy, right? And, you know, being a sounding board, either opening some doors or just being an actual mentor, or being an actual proper business advisor and supporting them. And what that's done for me is it's a different problem. So what happens is I find that just different problems give me just into different intellectual releases. And that's how I relax. It doesn't sound like a lot of relaxing, to be perfectly honest.
No, well, the piano and the gaming,
enjoy.
but yes, and that actually brings me on to my next question, because I was going to say, you know, as we discussed before, you do investing in companies, and what are the type of companies that you invest in? Are they similar to what you're doing now, or completely different?
It's a mix.
Okay.
I mean, I love technology.
Yeah.
And I love e-commerce, right? So e-commerce is kind of like my grown-up job, and obviously being a nerd, I love technology. So and I love computer gaming. So I invest in a gaming company and an esports company. I've also invested in a lot of fintech. I've invested in this amazing pet food brand that is like the coolest thing ever. Like I'm like all over it. I have 2 cats, so I'm like all over it. I'm like, do you want 2 models? You know, I'm like, you know, take the cats. You know, so I absolutely love it. They're called Aardvark, and they're a sustainable pet food brand. I just so many interesting things with them, and yeah. So I've just met different businesses. For me, it's about, is there a problem that you're actually trying to solve? Do I get it?
Yeah.
And is the person investable? It's actually 80% the person, to be honest.
I was going to say.
Obviously, if you're a great investable person, but you're just kind of replicating an idea, maybe not. But then you want to be in touch with that person. So that's kind of the variety, and I'm always looking out for different things because I just love helping and mentoring different people.
You can see that, and I think, again, if it's not Ocado, you're going to have so many people just wanting to work with you. So finally, throughout this entire journey that you've been on at Kerry and Ocado, what is the one thing that you're most proud of personally?
Professionally or personally?
Could be both.
Oh, I don't really know. I think professionally, what I'm probably most proud of is the culture I've created in Ocado. When I joined, you know, the guy who I worked for, in the interview, he said, it's really struck with me. He said, I work long hours, but I have fun when I do it, right? And I love that, and I live by that too. But I kind of took it to another level. So, you know, I joined, I think it was like May, and Halloween, which is obviously a bank holiday in Ireland, but not in the UK, frustratingly. I was like, oh, well, Halloween's coming along, and it's obviously now become more of a thing in the UK. So I was like, let's do a Halloween event, but we had no budget. So I basically came up with a shoestring budget of like fun type thing for like the 20 people in finance.
Yeah.
And it was like an hour in the boardroom, and, you know, I got pizzas in and things like that. And we had really good fun, right? And then I ran a Christmas event. event. And then I introduced the Christmas Advent calendar, which was a very, very cringe-worthy event where someone had to come up and do a turkey impression, and it was all very awkward. It was all very awkward, right? And Christmas is our most stressful time as a retailer, but also for our year end. But you pause the moment, right? And then we had a birthday calendar where no matter where it was, I always procured the birthday cakes, and it didn't matter what meeting I was in. If it was 3 o'clock or 3:15 and the person's at their desk, I would like stop a meeting and go get the cake and go to their birthday, because that's important. And that culture made people, for me, what I found is that culture made people have a sense of belonging. It also created such a crazy amount of camaraderie across teams that I've had people who came to work for me who have now maybe left the business, who have said that the culture I created was so important to them, and it became bigger. Like, we did bigger events, we did charity cake sales, and we never had that before at all, right? And people did it, and we created a social committee, and that culture was so important to me, you know, and I loved it. And I mean, we put Valentine's Day decorations up, I had a Paddy's Day, like there was anything, any event had like bunting. I have a bunting covered in the office. It's ridiculous, right? But I loved it because, you know what, it was super cringe, but that got people talking.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was important for culture. And I loved it. And that was just the energy that I brought to it. So I had that amazing outlet that I loved. And I'd be there on a Sunday hanging up bunting myself. But I loved it. I loved doing it. And that for me, and what it did for the people and bringing them together, you know, people looked forward to the Halloween event, the Christmas event, the Pancake Tuesday event, the Polish Donut Day event, the Easter event.
So
there was everything, like literally everything, right? You know, they wanted to do George's Day, and I was like, you can do George's Day. But I was like, I'll do Paddy's Day. No one did George's Day. You know, so we just did events, which was great. And I'm really, really proud of that because it just brought so many people together. People made, you know, because we were quite a siloed finance team, although small. And that's really lived through, even now, you know, people actually do the events, which is great, without me, which is good. I think I don't know about a personal level, actually, to be honest. What I'd probably say is, and this is going to sound kind of silly, I don't think I have a proudest moment yet because my story's still going. That's what I would say.
Perfect.
I have so much energy. There's so much I want to do.
I don't know if anyone could tell. You've got a lot of energy.
You know, but like there's so much more I want to do.
Of course, I love that.
There's so much I can achieve.
Yeah.
You know, my mum always said to me, can't isn't a word in your vocabulary.
Doesn't exist,
which meant that I was a very difficult child. But, you know, for me, I've always challenged the status quo, and I want to make change. I want to do things, and I want to, there's just so much to do. So, you know, I don't think I've hit it yet.
Perfect.
So.
I really like that. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. That was the Proud Talk. Now, if you like this episode, please like, follow, and share. Lots of love. Hey, if you have enjoyed watching the Proud Talk just as much as I've enjoyed interviewing, do me a favour, hit subscribe, like, and share. Lots of love.